You won't believe what just went down. Bron Breakker, the absolute monster who's been terrorizing WWE for months, actually got down on his knees and begged Adam Pearce for forgiveness. The same guy who's been throwing people through walls, the same unstoppable force who acts like he owns the place, was practically in tears asking for another chance. But before we get into the absolute insanity of what happened, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell because you're not going to want to miss a single moment of the chaos we're breaking down on this channel. So let's rewind for a second because the journey to this moment has been absolutely brutal. Bron Breakker has been on a warpath unlike anything we've seen in recent memory. This isn't some calculated villain who plays mind games and cuts promos about being misunderstood. This is pure, unfiltered aggression. We're talking about a second-generation superstar with the pedigree of the Steiner brothers running through his veins, combined with the athletic ability that makes grown men look like children in that ring. He's been dominating everyone put in front of him, and he's been doing it with a level of intensity that honestly makes you uncomfortable to watch sometimes. The spears, the power moves, the way he just ragdolls opponents like they're nothing, it's been must-see television, but it's also been controversy after controversy. The incidents have been piling up. Remember when he put that referee in the hospital? The official was just doing his job, trying to restore order, and Bron absolutely leveled him without a second thought. Then there was the attack on a backstage interviewer who just asked him a standard question after a match. The guy was holding a microphone, not preparing for a fight, and Bron just snapped. Security guards, production staff, even fans have had close calls when Bron loses control. And Adam Pearce, the general manager who's supposed to maintain order and make sure WWE runs smoothly, has been dealing with complaint after complaint, incident report after incident report. Every week it's something new with Breakker. The thing is, Bron Breakker is also money. He's ratings, he's social media engagement, he's everything WWE wants in a future main event star. The physicality, the look, the intensity, it's all there. You can't teach what he brings to the table. Management knows it, the locker room knows it, and Bron definitely knows it. That's why he's been getting away with behavior that would have gotten anyone else fired months ago. He's been playing with house money, pushing boundaries further and further because he believes he's untouchable. When you're that talented and that marketable, the rules bend for you, or at least they did until now. The breaking point came last week in a moment that even shocked the hardest of hardcore fans. During what was supposed to be a standard contract signing for his upcoming championship match, Bron completely lost it. The segment was going fine, both competitors at the table, Pearce moderating like he always does, cameras rolling for what should have been some intense verbal exchanges and maybe a table getting flipped at worst. But Bron took it to another level entirely. When his opponent said something that set him off, something we couldn't even hear clearly on the broadcast, Bron went absolutely ballistic. He didn't just flip the table. He threw his opponent through it, then grabbed Pearce by the collar and shoved him so hard that the general manager went flying into the barricade. The arena went silent. You could feel the entire energy shift in that moment. Attacking another wrestler is one thing, that's part of the business, that's expected drama. But putting your hands on management, especially someone like Adam Pearce who everyone respects, that crosses a line that even in the wild world of professional wrestling you just don't cross. The locker room emptied trying to pull Bron away, and it took at least 8 guys to finally restrain him. He was still screaming, still trying to break free, completely consumed by rage. The show went to commercial with absolute chaos in the ring and everyone wondering what could possibly happen next. The fallout was immediate and severe. Social media exploded with people demanding Bron be suspended or fired. Fellow wrestlers were posting about how the locker room has standards and consequences need to happen. Mainstream sports sites picked up the story talking about WWE's responsibility to maintain workplace safety. The pressure was mounting from every direction. And for the first time in his run, Bron Breakker seemed to realize he might have actually ended his career with one moment of uncontrolled fury. All that talent, all that potential, possibly thrown away because he couldn't keep his hands to himself for 5 minutes during a simple contract signing. Then came the announcement that shook everyone. Adam Pearce scheduled a public meeting with Bron Breakker to address the situation, and it would happen live on television with the entire WWE universe watching. The speculation went crazy. Was Bron going to be fired on live TV? Was this going to turn into another attack? Would we see the end of Bron Breakker in WWE right before our eyes? The anticipation was off the charts. Everyone tuned in knowing they were about to witness something significant. When the segment started, Bron walked out looking completely different than we'd ever seen him. No entrance music, no pyro, no aggressive posturing. He looked defeated before he even made it to the ring. The cocky swagger was gone. The intensity that usually radiates off him wasn't there. He stepped through those ropes like a man walking to his own execution. And standing in the ring was Adam Pearce, still showing the effects of being thrown into that barricade, with visible bruising and an expression that showed exactly zero sympathy for what Bron was going through. Pearce didn't waste time with pleasantries. He laid it out plain and simple. The behavior had gone too far. The company couldn't continue to make exceptions. There were legal departments involved now, insurance companies asking questions, sponsors expressing concerns. This wasn't just about wrestling anymore, this was about WWE's reputation and their ability to function as a business. And then came the words that made every heart watching skip a beat: indefinite suspension without pay, effective immediately, with possible termination pending a full investigation into every incident Bron had been involved in. The arena was dead quiet. This was really happening. Bron Breakker, the unstoppable force, was being taken off television right in front of everyone. You could see it on his face, the realization that he'd destroyed everything he worked for. And that's when something nobody expected happened. Bron Breakker, this absolute specimen of destruction and chaos, dropped to his knees right there in the center of the ring. What followed was uncomfortable to watch in the most compelling way possible. Bron started pleading his case, and it wasn't the usual wrestling apology where someone says what they're supposed to say while clearly not meaning it. This felt real. He talked about growing up in the wrestling business, how his family legacy meant everything to him, how he dreamed his entire life of making it to WWE and proving he belonged. He admitted he has anger issues he hasn't dealt with properly. He confessed that the success went to his head and he started believing the rules didn't apply to him. He looked Pearce directly in the eyes and took full responsibility for every single incident, no excuses, no justifications. The raw emotion was pouring out of him. You could see his hands shaking as he spoke. His voice cracked multiple times. This wasn't a scripted promo moment designed to get sympathy, this was a man genuinely terrified that he'd thrown away his dream career. He begged Pearce for one more chance, just one opportunity to prove he could control himself, to show he could be the wrestler WWE needed him to be instead of the liability he'd become. He promised to seek help, to work with professionals on his anger management, to accept any punishment or probation period Pearce deemed necessary. Pearce stood there listening, arms crossed, face unreadable. The silence between Bron's pleas was deafening. You could feel the tension through the screen. Finally, after what felt like forever, Pearce spoke. He told Bron that talent doesn't mean anything if you can't be trusted. That WWE has lost potentially great superstars before because they couldn't handle the responsibility that comes with the platform they're given. He pointed out that second chances mean nothing if the person receiving them hasn't actually changed. But then, and this is the moment that has everyone talking, Pearce said he's going to give Bron one final opportunity under the strictest conditions WWE has ever imposed on a superstar. Mandatory anger management sessions with reports sent directly to corporate. A zero-tolerance policy where even raising his voice to an official could mean immediate termination. He'd be forfeiting his championship match and starting from the bottom, having to earn his way back through wins and proving week after week that he deserves to be there. One more incident, one more loss of control, and Bron would be gone permanently with no appeals and no way back. The relief on Bron's face was visible even from the cheap seats. He thanked Pearce repeatedly, shook his hand with genuine gratitude, and left the ring looking like a completely humbled man. But here's where it gets interesting and why this story is far from over. We've seen redemption arcs before in wrestling. We've seen bad guys promise to change and then either actually reform or eventually reveal it was all manipulation. The question everyone's asking now is, which version are we getting with Bron Breakker? Some people think this was a genuine wake-up call and we're going to see a different, more controlled but still intense version of Bron going forward. Others believe this is just temporary and the first moment of adversity will have him right back to his old ways, possibly even worse than before. And there's a third group wondering if this entire thing is part of a longer storyline that's going to lead somewhere even more explosive than where we've been. Wrestling exists in this unique space where reality and fiction blend together, and moments like this make it almost impossible to know where the line is. What we do know is that Bron Breakker now has everything to prove and everything to lose. He's been given a lifeline he probably didn't deserve, and how he handles this second chance is going to define his entire career. If he genuinely uses this as a turning point, we could be watching the beginning of one of the greatest redemption stories in WWE history. If he fails, we'll be talking about him as a cautionary tale of wasted potential for decades to come. Either way, you better believe we're going to be watching every single move he makes from here on out because the stakes have never been higher.